Sky Priestess, and welcome to this live. So, today's work is going to be all about the energy of the new moon, the energy of prayer, how that ties together, and how it aligns with current events. Now, as you've been seeing on my Instagram and on posts here, obviously I've been talking about Ukraine, but there's also other things that are happening in the world. And I am someone who follows current events. I might not talk about it all the time, but if there's something happening in Jerusalem, I follow it. If there's something happening in Ethiopia, I look at it and I try to keep my eye on what is happening in the world. So if I focus on something, there is a reason for it. And it's not just because that is the current hype or the current energy that everyone is looking at right now. Now, the first thing I want people to understand is the new moon in Pisces is a very powerful opportunity for all of us to reaffirm what it is that we believe in. Now, some of us want to call it God, goddess, creator, creatrix. It doesn't matter what word you use, great spirit, nature. Everybody uses different words, and that's fine. For me, God is a day. I like the word. But it's ultimately the time where we all need to come back to that space in a way that is meaningful, in a way that is not mind based, that is not ego based, in a way that is based from the heart. And if you want an example of how, at the very least in my fashion, I encourage people to work with this energy, you can look at the last video I did, which was all about faith in a time of crisis. I wasn't actually going to do a video today, but I saw something going around and I realized I had to say something. As you notice, those of you who know me, a lot of the time I keep quiet, but if there's really something that needs to be said, I'm going to be like, I gotta say something. Now, I understand that a lot of people want to help the situation in the Ukraine. So do I. But I feel that there are certain pieces of information that will give a little bit more context as to why it's so important right now. How does it tie in with the energy of the new moon, and why we need to be so careful in handling the situation? Apart from reading a lot of occult and esoteric texts, I also spend time looking at the energies of how currents run through the planet. Now, if you were to go to Google Maps and if you were to just, plug in the specific cities on a map, Auschwitz, Strasbourg, Prague, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it. I'll try. Lviv, Kiev. I'm so sorry. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Kharkiv. If you were to go and actually plug all of these cities, you will see that they exist on a straight line. And if you were to look at the history of those cities, you're going to see that each of them have a very, very strong association with World War II. Now, I am not pushing some Zionist propaganda here before anybody wants to go and jump that gun. I am a scholar of politics and history first and foremost. So when we look at the kinds of histories, and these actually go back to, the time of the Black Death, we're not just talking about World War II, we see that there is actually a line that connects literally, geographically, and perfectly connects all of these cities that are in the public eye right now to a T. And those of you who are following the situation in Ukraine should also know that recently a very infamous site got bombed. And that's the site of, again, I apologize for the pronunciation, but I believe it's Babin Yar. Effectively, it was the site where it was the site where 33,000 people were killed in a span of 2 days. They were Jews. Now, about an estimate of 150,000 people have been killed at the same site of different nationalities and religions as well. But that is one of the reasons why that place is so infamous. Now, the reason why I even started looking into this is because I was thinking to myself, because I had a very strong feeling. This is actually, it's not about people, being hung up on Europe and ignoring other people. I completely understand, the criticisms that are coming from there. I just felt there was something deeper to this. What has actually come up is if you look at the history of that site, there were two very, very important days in which a rabbi writing later said, if someone had stopped what happened at Babin Yar, effectively the Holocaust could have been averted. At least that was his hope. Those actions emboldened Hitler at that time and gave him a sense of, yes, Christine, that's precisely exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you. Now, that was effectively um, um, what gave him the gall to go and do that to that many million people. And yes, please, let's not start with but this genocide happened here, that genocide happened there. I started studying African history first in my academic career, so let's not go there. But there's no comparison. But what's being triggered right now is a continuity of energy moving through these sites. There is no surprise, absolutely no surprise of the movement of Russian aggression at this time, especially on Kharkiv rather than Kiev. And all of us are sitting there going, oh God, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? But when you actually look at the structure of the line, it makes perfect sense. Now, there are other lines that intersect with this one. There is another which crosses just past, again, I apologize for the pronunciation. I tried, I looked it up. I believe it's Liv, Lviv. But effectively, that city crosses with yet another very significant line that is linked to many, many attempts in humanity's history to try and establish a house of worship. Let's just put it that way. And there are also signs in the skies that indicate that this same conflict is being dug up now by new factors and new players. And again, if this person is not stopped now, we are going to be seeing a repeat of what happened in the 1940s. So, and that's something that I and other astrologers have been saying for a long time. We already said when we had the Uranus Pluto squares, or at the very least, I was saying it, there's going to be some mad guy that comes along, and that is actually going to lead to the same situation we saw in Germany in World War II. That energy has come now. And that is why I'm looking at this. And that is why a lot of people are wanting to subconsciously, whether they realize it or not, they are involved in it in one way or another. Now, you must have noticed that I have been someone who's also been speaking out against the mistreatment of African and Indian and other students of other nationalities at the border. And that border point is precisely where there is this intersection of both lines. None of this is coincidental. I don't normally wear this hat, but I figured I had to say something because there's also a lot of people who want to do good but might end up triggering something a lot worse. And given the fact that the new moon is conjunct Jupiter and Nessus, the abuser, I would not be doing my job if I did not say this. So, with respect to the situation that is being triggered right now globally, and of course, I've been looking at the energies that are going to be surrounding Kiev for months to come. They have to have a very decisive end to this scenario within the next few weeks. Otherwise, they're going to face even more disaster in November and December of this year. So this is what I do. I don't always talk about it, but if I am talking about it, there is a reason. So for those of you who want to help and want to send prayer, understand that this land is deeply beautiful. It has a very dark, in a negative sense, undercurrent of energy. But at the same time, it is also connected to one of the purest streams of energy on this planet's history. And so live, just somebody, right? In case I'm saying it terribly, just tell me how to say it, please. Live is basically one of those places at which these streams cross, kind of the quote Ghostbusters. But anyway, getting back to seriousness, and even when Ukrainians talk about it themselves, they call that the soul of the nation. Thank you for the spelling, Julia, but that doesn't tell me how to say it right. But effectively, this is a place where we are going to, if we actually are interested in doing any kind of prayers and any kind of energy work, I would say rather than trying to control, rather than trying to look at, national symbols or military icons. Or I mean, I was actually reading today that the statue of the goddess that they have in Independence Square, it was an analytical article that was written by a feminist scholar. She went, yes, there was an older matriarchal tradition in this land, but it got reinvented by people who are trying to push a strong nationalist agenda. Even the symbol that we actually think are, the symbols of the country need to be contested. So rather than just focusing on that and trying to go with it and make up your own narrative, that doesn't work. That land is one of the most powerful things that I have noticed in that land is not only its soil composition, but also it is an energy, it is a space that is known for Marian apparitions. Um, in other words, people who have had confirmed sightings of the Virgin Mary, churches that and as sacred sites that are basically designed and dedicated to that, there is a very deep Marian presence all throughout that land. And this is also another one of those things that I end up looking at a lot. So if you do want to help at this time, I'm not saying you need to call in the Virgin Mary, but that's not a bad idea. Understand that this energy is, or rather, that this land has very strong protectors. Direct your energy, direct your focus to these protectors rather than trying to push through in on your own. Because this is also one of the things about having a new moon in Pisces with Jupiter conjunct Nessus. People want to help, but they might end up poking a hole in something that really should not be disturbed at this time. So there are a lot of occult layers to what's happening right now. And yes, I know people are going to go, but it's white people. No one's caring about this and that. How many of you actually noticed that there were attacks in Palestine near the Al-Aqsa Mosque at the time of, close to the time of the celebration of the Prophet's ascension? How many of you actually cared enough to notice about that? Or the fact that, Ethiopia is once again facing a renewal of its conflict in the Tigray region. So before waving that flag in my face, ask yourself if you've been looking at it. I'm preempting the comments. But effectively, when we look at this situation, we have to understand that this is a lot bigger than any race, than any culture, than any religion. And what is really required right now to stop that energy from coming back to this planet is effectively the best thing that we can do is prayer. As I told you before in the previous video, that's not just writing thoughts and prayers, kiss, kiss, hug, hug. No, actual focused prayer. You can go back to the last 5 minutes of the previous video if you want a very simple example of how that can be done in a safe way. Right now, the energies are kind of in a bit of a maelstrom, and people are also very, very, very triggered. They are deeply triggered at this time. I've been following very closely. I've been following photojournalists, and I can see day by day. You can see the fear, you can see the panic, you can see the PTSD set in. It is extremely hard to witness all of this. But that does not mean that anyone needs to go about and be poking about this place and putting in their stuff. It already has its own issues. So, this is something I wanted to flag at this time because this is it's a very powerful land. It has its defenders, it has its protectors. And what I would say right now is if anyone wanted to help, pray, direct your energies in ways that actually keep things like apathy, burnout, exhaustion, fear from setting in. And if you don't know how to do that, just ask, direct it, to, again, whatever you understand as Great Spirit, and specify that whatever needs to unfold in the highest and deepest way that is aligned for the good of all. Just because without understanding the larger picture, a person can do a lot of harm when it comes to prayers, rituals, meditations, land work, whatever it is. This is just because I'm seeing people wanting to do stuff, and I'm just like, nah, don't. Leave it be, and just direct it in a safe way. Now you may ask, well, but this is all about the world, and what about my own life? And this is the thing, love. If the world's energy doesn't change at this time, your personal life is going to be the least of your issues in the next couple of years to come. So, look at the larger picture right now. It is very important to be looking at how the energy of the situation as a whole is moving, especially on the border. If anyone in their right mind tells me that these Africans are making it up, drop me a DM and I'll send you links. But effectively, look at the energy of what is happening. Are people acting with kindness? Are people acting with compassion? Even if you have to defend yourself, there is a difference between defending from a space of raw anger, defending from a space of hate, or defending from a space of, oh my God, my child doesn't have food, I have to protect them. You have to make sure that there is something within, something that is still aligned with whatever you call is the sacred when you are standing and doing that noble work. And this is a time where, yes, it's wonderful to valorize the strength of those people. It's wonderful to valorize their heroism. Um, you know, but at the same time, you also got to understand that over time, when someone feels alienated and isolated, or when someone feels like they're not getting help, that same energy can go into a very different channel. So let's not fan those flames. And this is a general note on Pisces. Pisces is such a loving, such a compassionate energy. But at the same time, within itself, it is absolutely detached. That means it can cut when it truly needs to cut. That is why a lot of spiritual teachers, even if they are very loving, even if they're very sweet, inside them, there is always a very sharp and clear blade of discernment that comes through. And that is the paradox of Pisces. But it's a difficult line to walk. But in any case, these are some of the things that need to be addressed at this time. And the honest response to this, once again, as I have said, as I always say, it comes back to the heart. Love. It does not matter if you necessarily feel like this is the most important thing in the world or not. Doesn't matter. Love anyway. Whatever opinions you have about whether these are good people or nice people after what I've told you about this event, love anyway. It doesn't matter, because what is at stake is a lot larger than one country getting, accession to the EU. It is a lot larger than this. Mark my words. So let us continue directing our energies in a way that is focused, in a way that is compassionate, and at the same time in a way that is open and is truthful, even if it is uncomfortable at those times. That is what it means to have faith. When you try to control magic, when you try to control energy because you want a particular outcome, you are no longer walking in alignment with God, however you understand God. That's the truth of it. People who want things and are not moving in the flow of their life, in the flow of their relationship with Spirit and Creator, are going to have to find their way back to them eventually. Open your heart and let whatever you understand as divine take the wheel at this time. That is honestly the best and most powerful act that all of us can do. Just because Jupiter is with Nessus and all of this energy is also aspecting the great attractor, a time where you will be pushed or pulled towards different truths. The only truth worth having at this time is a truth of compassion. That's not control. That is simply opening your heart. That is forgiveness. That is faith. That is humility. That is surrender to whatever you understand as divinity. And let it work its will. So that is honestly what I had to say today. And I hope the message goes in a good way to wherever it needs to go. This is a globally significant event. And hopefully people pay attention in the way they should. Let me just see if there are any significant questions or comments with respect to what has been said here. Um, Julia says in English, pronounce live. Okay, I think maybe I got that. I'm not sure. Christine says President Zelensky is a rare and true leader. He is. He's also Paddington Bear. in the Ukrainian version, which makes me very happy because a couple of weeks ago I told my brother, I was joking. I just said, it would be really cool if people saw a movie like of Paddington Bear in a war leading people. And I had no idea what I was saying, but my brother laughed it off, but it has happened. So great oracular prophecy. Okay. Hey, Coyote Prophet. Good to see you. Good to see you. Tamalan says, do you think World War III is imminent? I think it will be decided in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Let's see. Um, okay. Right. So, critical times, critical moments, and hopefully people can take this in the way it is meant. I, for one, have been finding a lot of solace with the Aramaic, uh, the Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer. I love the version in Swahili. I also love the version in Aramaic. I highly, highly recommend listening to that if you get a chance. Clearly, I've had a lot of lifetimes in Jerusalem. So, anyway, but yeah, that's how I've been consoling myself with everything. But light a candle, singing words, and just do what you can to open your heart. That's more than enough. Julia says, I'm Russian. At Ukraine since last Monday. I've been going through a tough period. Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, mm, Tree essence. Oh, okay. Okay, tree essence, you're talking about astrocartography. That is a completely different thing. This has got nothing to do with astrocartography. This is the geometry of the planet. Um, Yessi says, "Do you have a link for the prayer? I can write it down once I'm finished with the live." Nahia says the ley lines are getting activated. They are, and that's why you need to be very careful. Don't just, try to light up things that literally have millions of dead people who are unhappy there. So let's not go into that. There are safer ways of doing this. Um, Tree says, is there significance in vertical versus horizontal geographical connections like these? No, I mean, in the sense that it's it all depends on which way you orient the globe. What's vertical becomes horizontal if you just change the perspective of the globe. So in that sense, no, it doesn't make a difference. But what I talk to you about is astrocartography, different things. Don't mix it together. You're only going to get confused. This is different. Okay, no worries, no worries. Kimberly asks, seeing a lot of spirits walking through my home, anything to do about that? Well, if this is a usual occurrence, no. If it's an unusual occurrence, that probably means that there is some part of your home that has become psychically porous. And you probably need to do some warding or shielding or, look up how to increase psychic defenses in the house. If it's energies that are not too bad, just tell them, please, this is not a bus stop, move along and, reclaim your house. Some people don't mind that. Some people find that a problem. This is also, of course, a time of very heightened psychic activity, lots of things coming through in the dream state, but we don't always know whether what we are seeing is what we think it is at face value. But yeah, a lot of old energies are coming up right now. Those of you with Ukrainian ancestry, Russian ancestry, but basically Slavic ancestry, those of you who have a strong connection with the Jewish faith, you're going to really be feeling this very, very strongly in your bones. So take care of yourselves as well. That's very important. Kimberly says, I'm very psychic and it's increasing. Yeah, Pisces is the sign that deals with all of this. So that's very, that makes sense. Irina says, I'm from Russia originally as well, and deep sorrow and shame for how inattentive and numb we were and for all that's unfolded. Any advice on how to read the news now and stay more or less sane? What I do is, and I look at a lot of newspaper reports, just because I'll try to look at perspectives. But in this particular war, I have found that the most relevant reports are coming from the journalists who are on the ground. And they are really at it on Twitter. You know, if you follow me on Twitter, you can just look for the Sky Priestess. You can see the people that I'm following, and they really they're actually showing you in real time what's going on. Um, that's actually a lot more accurate than what you get in a lot of the newspapers. If you really want to see real people, go and follow the journalists. A lot of them, unfortunately, are not being paid and they are going through extreme trauma, but they are doing what they can to bring information in a way that isn't filtered through somebody else's agenda. Literally, one video I saw today was of someone, a volunteer reporting, and bam, a bomb fell right next to, well, not directly on him, obviously, but probably in the building behind him, and you could just see the shrapnel everywhere. It's very real, it's very raw. I am someone who is used to looking at this stuff all of the time, so, it's still very hard for me to look at. But if you really want to follow it, follow the people who are closest to the ground. Um, let's see. Julia says, in whole body feels like torture. Understood. Aquarius Queen says, hi, Sky Priestess. I'm my moon, Jupiter and Pisces in the 8th house. Yikes! Tree Essence says, any suggestion to protect us against psychic attacks for those of us with not so strong psychic boundaries at this time? You can use tools to help, especially at a time like this. It all depends on what type of attack it is. I would say, as a general rule, and of course you can look this up online, there are millions of articles on this. But stuff, I would say selenite. Go with selenite. Roses and Bee says, Pisces moon here in my first house. I'm really feeling this and I'm retaining a lot of water, staying still and sending love. Sounds good. So I am going to sign off unless there's any, any questions that need to be raised with respect to this particular installation. If you just got here, go back to the beginning because there's a lot of information, especially if you are wondering what to do with the energy of what we're facing right now as a collective. Just bear in mind, especially for very sensitive people, there's also a lot of collective trauma that's getting triggered, not just now from what's happening, but again, if you link it back to World War II, those same energies are getting triggered all over again. So do what you can, take what you can take on board. Please do not be an ostrich burying your head in the sand at this time. Compassion requires engagement. Even if all you can do is engage this much, that's enough. But pretending that you can get by and not look at what is happening around you in the world, that can get you somewhere, but it's certainly not a place where I can reach you. But that's about it. So take care. Very many blessings. Lots of love to everyone. I will copy paste the link to that Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer that I found. I found it very, very soothing. Probably sung it before. I took to it like that. And obviously it's from Syria where there's more issues happening right now. But yeah, hopefully something good comes. Hopefully something good comes. So lots of love, very many blessings. Stay discerning, stay focused, and pray from the heart. That is all anybody can do right now, even if it's this much of your day. Cha-cha for now. Bye-bye. How's that?